Hello BTS lovers today. BTS's Kim Taehyung's latest statement has shaken public opinion. A sharp confession, delivered calmly, leaves a big question. What exactly happened between Taehyung, Jungkook, and HYBE labels? Why is Jungkook's name mentioned explicitly in the context of the future is no longer certain? And why, amid the world's spotlight, did Jungkook choose not to say a word? Those questions can no longer be considered mere fandom speculation. Because for the first time, HYBE, the giant agency that houses BTS, came down directly to provide clarification. However, instead of clearing up the situation, their response caused a more complex and emotional follow-up reaction from the public, especially the ARMY, which has always placed trust in the group's internal relationships, which are considered unshakable. Taehyung's remarks, delivered in a limited interview session post his military activity, did not come from an agency script. No filters, no censors. He spoke like someone who had held back for too long. The sentence is straightforward, firm, but it stores layers of meaning that the media and industry observers are still trying to unravel. I can only hope that he will still choose his path, even if his path is no longer with us, Taehyung said of Jungkook. The statements came out of nowhere, without provoking questions, without a specific promotional context or public agenda. For many, this is hard code. A sign that something big is going on behind the scenes of the South Korean entertainment industry, specifically in the bodies of HYBE and BTS. The fact that Jungkook has yet to give a counter-statement, either publicly or via private platforms like Weverse or Instagram, makes all these speculations even more condensed. Not a few fans have attributed this to Jungkook's silence in recent months, especially since he finished promoting his solo album and serving his military service in a very closed atmosphere. But the most astonishing thing was not Taehyung's statement or Jungkook's silence, but rather the official response finally issued by HYBE. In a written statement to local and international media, HYBE said that Taehyung's statement reflects personal thoughts and does not represent any ongoing internal decision. While it may seem diplomatic, many are reading this as a subtle rebuff to the validity of Taehyung's concerns, as well as trying to dampen a potential crisis of confidence from the public. The statement did not name Jungkook directly. But the big question is, if there is no serious issue, why does HYBE feel the need to provide such careful clarification, almost like walking on a mine? Is this a sign that something is being hidden? Or is it just another form of internal communication conflict that has been kept silent for too long? A number of entertainment industry analysts said that what happened was not just an ordinary tension between the group's members, but a representation of a larger dynamic: HYBE's internal pressure to maintain BTS's identity amid the military phase, solo projects, and the group's uncertain future. With Jin and J-Hope having returned from military service, while the other four members are still on active duty, HYBE is in a crucial transition period. And it is in a transition like this that a rift, even a small one, can develop into a much bigger crisis. Many people suspect that Taehyung's statement is related to the discussion of BTS's contract extension, which has not been publicly announced until now. Their last contract was renewed in 2018, and while there's still time left, industry and ARMY are looking forward to official signals that the 7 members will still step together. In this context, the statement about the uncertain future becomes not only a personal statement, but also an early warning that cannot be ignored. Even more interesting, though, is the fact that Taehyung's statement came shortly after a number of rumors suggested that Jungkook was considering an independent artistic move post-military service. The rumor was drowned out because it was not confirmed by reliable sources, but is now back to the surface. Coupled with Jungkook's global projects before enlistment, which were largely managed by HYBE's outside team, there have been suggestions that he is testing possible careers outside the old system that housed BTS. But what makes this situation even more emotional for fans is how all of this was revealed without warning, without confirmation, and without open communication between the members. ARMY, who for years witnessed BTS's cohesiveness as an unwavering brotherhood, is now faced with the possibility that even within the bonds of brotherhood, directions and goals can change. The question now is this the beginning of the end, or is it just a break that will lead them to new forms of collaboration in the future? The constellation of questions did not stop at HYBE's flat and sterile clarification. In fact, the agency's attitude that seemed to dismiss Taehyung's anxiety has led to a new insistence from the public. If this is just a personal opinion, why does it appear at a time like this? And even more profoundly, why would a Taehyung known for being very selective in speaking to the media choose to voice concerns openly instead of allowing them to remain an internal discussion? We must understand the great context that frames all this. Taehyung is not only a member of BTS, he is also one of the most vocal figures in defending artistic idealism amid the commercial pressures of the K-pop industry. In many previous interviews, he often voiced the importance of integrity in music and freedom of expression. So when he suddenly mentions Jungkook's name in the context of an uncertain future, it is not merely an emotional statement, but perhaps a strong signal about shifting values, internal pressures, or even strategic decisions that are not mutually agreed upon. On the contrary, Jungkook's silence, which until now has not budged in the slightest, is the element that most strongly shakes perception. Jungkook, as BTS's youngest member, is known for being honest, open, and responsive to ARMY. He used to cry at concerts because he felt he didn't deserve more praise than the other members, and he was known to be someone who couldn't bear to hide something important from his fans. So when he chose not to answer, not to hint, not to even show any public expression after Taehyung's statement, the situation became more than just a mystery. It became a collective psychological pressure for fans who had watched their relationship grow since adolescence. The main question crystallizes: is Jungkook really at a major crossroads in his life? Is Taehyung indirectly warning us that big changes are on the horizon? Several industry sources who asked not to be identified said it was likely that internal discussions about the future of individual BTS members had been going on for quite some time. Although not mentioned explicitly, some internal staff members said there was a discrepancy between Jungkook's personal vision and HYBE's long-term plans for BTS as a group entity. Jungkook said he wants to experiment more in international music genres and cross-border collaborations without having to be tied to the narrative of former BTS members every step of the way. This is a serious challenge for HYBE, as BTS, branding as one whole entity for over a decade, is one of the biggest assets they have economically and reputationally. Meanwhile, Taehyung's statement seemed to give legitimacy to speculation that had only circulated in online forums. That important decisions regarding the future of each member do not always proceed in full understanding. And if someone like Taehyung, who is known to be very loyal to the group, is already talking like that, then this is no longer just a coincidence. This is a reality that, sooner or later, will force us all to accept that BTS may not return in the same form as before. The public reaction was divided. On the one hand, there is the ARMY, which shows extraordinary maturity by expressing its full support for whatever Jungkook's life choices are, including if he chooses the path of permanent solo. But on the other hand, there is also a very human disappointment, even anger, to HYBE because she is considered not transparent and too passive in dealing with the emotional turmoil that is now experienced by millions of fans. It's not just a matter of information, it's a matter of security. A sense of security that the bond they've always believed in can change at any time without warning. Observers of South Korean pop culture see this dynamic as the culmination of the idol industry's great contradiction. Artists are required to grow, change, and find themselves, but at the same time, they are also burdened with the expectation of maintaining the narrative of eternal togetherness that was sold to the public in the first place.